Good evening, everybody. I hope your weekend is going well. Welcome to Prologue. Go way back. This is actually what you're looking at here is the starting screen. Um, Prologue Go Way Back. I don't know when it was announced, but I've been aware of it for some time. It's basically this ultra hardcore, unforgiving, maybe realistic survival game where your sole purpose is to survive a trip across the map from your starting point to the weather station. Now, that's it. That's what you do, apparently. As far as I'm aware, you're not in any danger from bears and wolves. It's not the long dark. Don't think there are any weapons in it. Um, what you just have is this supposedly extremely difficult learning experience. That's not what we're going to be doing today. This, when the demo came out, I got our hands on the demo back in June, I think it was. I did a first impressions video, and I haven't watched it since, and I can't remember what my conclusions were, except to say that I do remember being it was glitchy and buggy and this kind of thing. Um, it wasn't the easiest thing to get decent frame rates, and trust me, we're going to be coming back to that. But it was possible, and it was promising. I think would be the kindest expression I could use. It did have some weird glitchiness in that as I recall, I ended up with threads doing weird things and slowing the game down and this sort of thing. But this is early access. I had to pay for this. This wasn't free. Because I'm genuinely curious to see what it's like. It's at 10% off, by the way, right now. It costs about, what was it, £16? Hang on, I can check. In the store, it is. How much was it? It doesn't tell me. It is £15.29. It's 10% off at the moment. And I literally got this on the 20th. I have not played it beyond some frustrations which I shall relate to you as we go along. Now, as per normal, and you can't see it, I've got G overlay over here. I may drag it over at some point so that you can see for yourself how the system is performing, but I will otherwise relate to you how the system is performing. Don't think there's anything else more to say, except let's take a look. So, I've already been through some of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have it as free roam. Okay? Let's make sure it remembers that. Just so that I can wander around and take a look. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at is the settings. Now, by default, it comes up pretty much like this, I think, or close enough. It does have everything set to epic by default on my system. I think that was set, whoops, don't know what, I can't remember what this was set to. I think it was set to XESS by default. I think that's where the defaults were. I should have done a better check. But anyway, so this is everything maxed out. I didn't expect fantastic performance. Let's take a little look at what we actually get. Right, double check the game modes. Good. And now we'll start a new game. The engine is, I believe, Unreal Engine 5, and this is the first. I think this is the first game I've played which actually uses that. And if anybody was expecting Warframe, it's the weekend. There are no guarantees at the weekend. Now, this is my first live stream today because I am now typically taking the mornings off from streaming at the weekends. Not from gaming, just from streaming. Right, here we go. Apparently, it's a seed generation sort of system. One thing I will note is that this option, display the weather tower location on the maps, never stays on. But I've got prompts available to take me through bits and pieces. So let's have a little look. And it's forgotten the fact that I'm actually supposed to be doing a peaceful hike. So that's a bit of an issue. And this is where we start. And the first thing you'll notice is the frame rate. It's running at about 40 frames a second. Okay. Yeah, it's not fantastic, but it's not ideal. And this is what it looks like. Graphics, don't forget, set to maximum. It doesn't look too bad, except for the frame rate. Frame rate is 25 frames a second. I would like to be able to stream at 60. Right now, my GPU is absolutely at screaming maximum. Almost, actually. It's 1% off. But, okay. What does it look like? Do you know what? I can't really tell if it's improved. I think it's improved a bit since the last time I saw this. I'm going to be a little unkind here. With apologies. I've seen better looking games, I think. I think Green Hell and The Forest looked better than this. But okay, it's it's got some nice detail, the lichens on the rocks, that sort of thing. Oh, so the first thing we're going to do, I think, is let's try and tweak our frame rate, because this is where it gets interesting for me. Now, normally, first thing you might want to do is, well, we'll set this down to low and see whether that makes any difference, but I will definitely get rid of motion blur. And let's see if that makes any difference, huh? Yes, I do want to keep them. Okay, well, the good news is we've picked up about 15 frames a second. It's a bit smoother. Curiously, the GPU is still running at absolute maximum. But yeah, you can see issues with the graphics and the draw distance going on there. But all right, okay. It still looks pretty good. And inside we're hitting 60 frames a second, it seems, which is nice. Don't forget, this is the lowest settings. I'll have to say, and apologies to the developers, it looks a little, if you'll pardon the joke, unreal inside. I'm not entirely certain. It almost looks, I don't know, too polished, maybe? Yeah. But hey, you know what? 60 frames a second inside max settings. Oh, except when I start facing towards Windows. Yeah. Yes, it does not like displaying outside one little bit. And then we are, and this is kind of weird, it's still showing 60 frames a second outside, which is not what I expected, to be honest. Okay, that's more like it. Oh, that's the generator working away. And if we have a look at this way, okay, we've still got 30 frames a second. I mean, you can lock the frame rate at 30 frames a second. But, you know, it would be nice to get a little bit faster. I mean, I am actually kind of surprised that I went from epic quality to low, and that's what it came up with. And like I say, this is still, the GPU is still running at, yeah, absolute max, almost absolute max. The CPU utilization is running at 30%, and that's almost entirely the game. Hey, Riss, how you doing? So, yeah, no, the CPU is ticking along quite nicely. It seems to be nicely multi-threaded. My memory says Unreal Engines are actually pretty well multi-threaded, so that's a good thing. But is there anything further we can do to improve the graphics? Well, cutting a long story short, the answer might be, well, yes. So I'm actually going to take the preset up to max again. And we're going to come down here. I'm going to disable anti-aliasing because it does make a difference, to be honest. But at high resolutions, arguably, you don't really need it. I don't know whether you'd notice the difference on YouTube or Twitch. Got that off. Now, this is where it gets interesting, the upscaler and frame generation. So FSR is, as I understand it, associated with AMD. I don't have a way of setting global frame generation for AMD GPUs. The software and support isn't available for it. You have to do it game by game. So this is what we're going to deal with. I don't know why we have upscaler quality set to epic, because I don't think I'm upscaling it. I am rendering, hopefully, at 3440 by 1440. That's my that's the monitor resolution. So okay, let's try that. See whether anything is improved. Now the weird thing is, earlier when I was doing this, I did actually get significant speed increases by switching to that. And in fact, you maybe, yeah. I actually earlier was running at max settings significantly faster than that, and now it isn't doing it. I was getting, oh grief, 80 frames a second. The interesting thing is the GPU is not now at max. It is actually at 85%. Here we go, 70 odd frames a second. You'll notice it's utterly ignoring the frame rate cap. But it is not running at absolute max. So FSR is something you're going to want with this game. If you're running high resolution, high quality. And now that we've got some environmental effects going on, it's actually getting quite interesting. Okay, yeah. Nice directional sound there. Looks nice and threatening. This isn't the long dark. You can jump. And then we drop down to 46. Now, I don't know enough about FSR and frame generation to know how it's supposed to work. I don't know if the effect is immediate or if you have to wait, because it's sort of AI generated, isn't it? Ooh, blackberries. I think they're blackberries. Blackberries do not squidgy move like that. I can tell you that for nothing. All right, so we've gotten ourselves now at this point more or less maxed out graphics without anti-aliasing and motion blur at better frame rates that for some reasons work in some directions better than others. It does not like looking this way. I don't know why. But when I came round this way, it was much, much happier. All right, so yeah, you can see if I look this way, I can only assume it's because the visible draw distance is less. It's happier. In case you're wondering, and yeah, once again, I'm still not maxed out on the GPU. Even though I'm running here at 48 frames a second, the GPU is running at 82%. Between 85 and 82%. It's not maxed. So I don't know enough to understand why that would be the case. Now, one trick, of course. Yeah, Iris, yes. This is Prologue, go way back. It's a hardcore, ultra-realistic survival game where you have to cross the map. I'm not playing it per se. I'm just looking at how it looks and behaves and feels. It does... It's actually, even though this is a relatively low frame rate, it's not too bad. I've seen worse performance at low frame rates than this. This isn't too bad. You know, I could probably survive this. But we're not finished necessarily with our fiddling. There are other things that I would like to try, while remaining on, as much as possible, the best graphics I can get. It is very strange that walking this way... Oh, by the way, if I die, don't be too surprised. It's very funny that at walking this way, I get 80 frames a second. Look at this. Walking directly into what I assume is hail, which is coming straight at me. That itself is kind of interesting, because when you start getting weather effects... Yeah, those weather effects are slightly weird. Yeah, look at this. This is very, very funny. I face this way, and I get a frame rate drop. I face this way. Oh no, and the frame rate is climbing a bit. Don't worry. Don't worry if Lucy dies. Wow. Yeah, look at the weather effects there on the screen. Now I have to. I don't know. I'm running at 26 frames a second as the because I don't want to. I mean, I looked at Wuthering Winds and I had no interest in it. Didn't see anything about it. I don't care if they're trending. I play what I like. And this is interesting to me. So as the weather effects and snow kicks in, yeah, you can really see that the frame rate here is getting hammered. And those are really odd weather effects. Now, it's not impossible that that is due to Linux. Because I'm running this under Linux, not Windows. I'm running through Proton, which is converting DirectX calls into Vulkan. Yeah, you will find, Briss, I don't play games just because they're trending. I play games because I'm interested, or I like them, or I got something to say about them. So, while she's quite... Yeah, that is a really bizarre weather effect. I don't know, again, I don't know whether that's the Proton compatibility layer I'm running or something else. But I really would hope that that frame rate would have been stayed up, but it didn't. So let's see, what else could we possibly do? Well, now what we could do is try running it at this is a widescreen resolution. So what that will be doing is upscaling. So we will kick that up and see whether we get any benefit from that. So technically, I've just about halved the number of pixels being... And it's made absolutely no difference whatsoever to the frame rate. And the GPU still isn't at max. So... oh, let's try something really extreme. Let's go to that and see whether that makes any difference. Now, we should see a dramatic change in the graphics quality by doing this. And I don't think we're going to. Nope. Makes no difference. I'm not even sure that registered the change. Nope. GPU is still operating at the same speed. Alright, let's turn down the upscaler quality. I don't think that's going to make any difference. Oh, yes, it does. Look. Maybe a bit of difference. Yeah, you can't die of hypothermia in this game, by the way. Yeah, that is not a fun... okay, this is now turned into a not-so-fun gaming experience. Oh, no wonder she's dying. I got the door open. like I say, it is truly bizarre. I had this running quite nicely earlier, and now it's, yeah. Well, you saw 80 frames a second. And the GPU is still not being fully utilized, even though it says 30 frames a second there, which is truly odd. I am. You would think setting that resolution. Oh, and by the way, if I set that to windowed mode, that would be the resolution it would be playing at. So that's not giving me any particular benefit. Oops. Yeah. Let's go to a low preset. There we go. Let's just turn everything to low, and we'll keep our frame generation on. And I'm not using an upscaler. The only problem is if I don't use an upscaler, it doesn't work with frame generation, I don't think. See, no, it doesn't. Isn't XeSS NVIDIA's? I know. You're preaching to the choir. I went through this process earlier. I am simply trying to repeat what I did earlier and try and show any apparent differences. Okay, now we have got... Okay, now we've got 60 odd frames a second, 70, 75, 90 inside. Okay, so that did make a difference inside, 102. All right, what does it look like when we go outside? Okay, now I did not expect it to stay at 120 frames a second outside. It really shouldn't have done. Now, this all may be completely explainable, but, you know, at least we can get something that's worth playing. I've got weather effects on. Lucy is freezing to death. And we're getting more or less 60 frames a second, even though the weather effects are weird. Yeah, and she's quietly dying. Poor Lucy. Alright, let's give ourselves a little bit. Now, one issue is, in order to change mode to peaceful mode, so that we can look around a bit more without worrying about freezing to death and experiment more without her freezing to death, I've got to exit. And then I've got to restart. So you get to look at my wallpaper for a minute. Honestly, I am not used to having to fiddle with the graphics quite so much to get something it's really weird. Hang on. So there's my current game settings. Everything's set to low. FSR's on. FSR's on. Sharpener. I haven't bothered with the upscaler. Yes, it's the wind blowing. So let's play that. We'll just have a little idle walk around and see what we can see. I can't help but the interesting thing is, while that's loading, the graphics requirements for this are not huge. I'm looking at the system requirements here. Processor. This is the minimum. Intel Core i5 8600 and an NVIDIA GTX 1070. That's pretty low end these days. The recommended is an Intel Core i5 10600K and an NVIDIA RTX 2080 3070. Honestly, I don't know how my CPU compares, but looking at CPU performance, I don't think that's a huge problem. I've got a 5800X3D versus, let's have a quick look up and see how it compares with the 10600K. Yeah, let's see how that compares. Actually, it looks like my 5800X3D is in principle well, I've got 8 cores, 16 threads, 6 cores, 12 threads. Essentially, from what I can tell, the 5800X3D is, roughly speaking, better than the recommended. Okay, which is good to know. The GPU I'm using is significantly better. The GPU I'm using is an AMD 9070, which is significantly better than the 2080 3070 they're recommending there. So, yeah. But I am running 3440 by 1440 widescreen, which is basically, I think it's more than 4K, but we'll see. Okay, so now indoors, freshly loaded, 120 frames a second. It's ignoring the frame rate cap. GPU's at between 82 and 84%. And outside we are back in the 55, 60 frame rate. And again, it's raining. And look at those bizarre raindrop effects. That is weird. It's almost as though you've got a sheet of glass in front of you and you're watching the rain streak down the glass. Oh, Warframe is so well optimized you could run it on a toaster. Warframe is an extremely, from what I understand, is an extremely well optimized game. This clearly isn't. This is low graphic settings, I think. Let's see how it behaves when I go to maximum, because why not? And motion blur, no. Anti-aliasing, TSR, upscaler, FSR, frame generation, upscaler, quality. Okay, let's see what that does. You know, this is really strange, because I have had it running at maximum graphics, and, well, you saw earlier, depending on which direction I faced, you know, I could get 30 odd frames a second, or I could get 70. But so I'm going to say there's something, to my mind, there's something weird going on with the graphics. and I don't understand it well enough. But yeah, there we go. I am now up to 60 odd frames a second, and this is max graphic settings for the most part. But like I say, it looks all right. It doesn't look terrible, but I think I've seen better. There's this got this odd sort of feel to it, which I know is subjective. But there is a certain inconsistency I'm seeing here. And for what it's worth, I am not 100% on the GPU. GPU is running at 88%, 87% right now to get me 66 frames a second. So I'm not maxed out on that by any means. But look at those weird rain effects. I mean, that is really peculiar rain effects. Look at that. That is very odd. I don't have a Windows system, so I can't dual boot to take a look at the difference. But that does not look like rain to me. Although it is interesting, please note that I've got the rain effects, graphics set to maximum. Wow, it's getting quite loud out there. And the frame generation obviously seems to be working. If I look up at the sky, yeah, that's a very odd effects I'm seeing. Yeah, look at that weird effect. Now this makes me wonder whether I've got a compatibility layer problem, which is possible, by the way. It's entirely possible that some of what we're seeing here isn't due to the game itself. It's due to Proton, possibly. And I can certainly experiment with that. You can look at your own feet, just in case you're wondering. But that is a really odd rain effect. And here's another weird thing, right? Look at this. I came indoors and the frame rate dropped down to 34 frames a second. Is this an FSR thing? I mean, that's very peculiar. That is really, really odd. Okay, I'm gonna have to say, you know what? I don't remember. When I ran the demo, I did see a fair amount of well, it's not. I'm playing, like I say, the 1440p widescreen. Shouldn't make any difference. Well, it should. It'll slow down compared. If you're running 1080p, you'll get far better performance than I'm getting. But that is weird, and I got a suspicion it's a compatibility issue type thing, because that should not look like that. It really should not. Let's try. Okay, let's give it the best shot we can, I suppose. Okay, that obviously slowed things down a bit, but it doesn't look any better. Not that I can see. Although why I would be upscaling I don't know. That kind of looks a bit better, actually, maybe. I mean, to be honest, running Epic is daft. Okay, we'll set it to high. And like I say, first thing I typically do is, if I'm running this kind of thing, is I'll drop the anti-aliasing down. I don't know the difference between the various anti-aliasing types, but I will disable that. Although I think anti-aliasing is actually done through software, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know what you mean by deset it. And I'm pretty certain I don't need to bother with upscaling, and I don't necessarily... Let's try that and see. Well, yeah, look at that, some weird effects at the top there. I reckon this is a Proton issue, but that's only a guess. Yeah, that's a good idea. Shadows. Okay, let's oops. Yeah, let's turn the reflections down. Yeah, let's just try that for starters. No, now I'm getting some weird effects around the boards, to be honest with you. Yeah, I got a suspicion this is not Steam Deck certified. Now, the Steam Deck will run through Proton, just as I am. So it's entirely possible that what we're seeing is issues with that. Now, I can do something about that. I can try something else. In some ways, this is less about the game and more how to get it running under Linux. I mean, even... Tell you what I'll do, just for the fun of it. I'm going to put that back up to Epic. Anti-aliasing, no. Upscaler, no, because I'm not upscaling. Why has it got... Oh, I actually have to have an upscaler on in order to get FSR, which just strikes me as weird. Okay. Well, what I can try... Yeah, you'll notice now with that indoors, I'm getting halfway decent. But what I can try is this. I can exit the game, of course. Actually, there's something we should try first. Some games can be really a bit weird about their graphic settings. There are some games that, even though they don't tell you to restart the game, you still need to restart the game. If you've ever played with Euro Truck Simulator or US Truck Simulator, when you make graphic changes, it's kind of sort of a good idea to restart the game. And yeah. And with the Euro Truck Simulator, I had it where, and this wasn't just me, my son, who was also running Linux at the time, was basically telling me that if you change the frame rate or you change the screen resolution, restart the game, even though it doesn't tell you to. The thing is though, here's something to bear in mind, right? Um, you shouldn't have to be an expert to get the graphics settings working for you. You really should not. All right, let's have a look. Okay, this is max graphics. It's not raining. It's probably a different map. It's not too bad. But there is something else we can try. What we really want is it to start raining. The fern detail is not bad. The thing, but like the one thing that does bother me, it has to be said, is that it just doesn't, to my mind, look as good as other games necessarily. Like I say, Green Hell looked, and the forest looked really quite something. This just looks, that I don't know about you, but that looks weird to me. I mean, that is Old Man's Beard moss, and it looks weird. That's not how it looks. Now, yeah, the rain. I mean, it look. I'm not going to say it's terrible. No, it looks quite good. Absolutely no doubt. Some of the attention to detail, that looks like lichen. Yep. But there is another thing I can try. Oh, excuse me. Getting rough. And this is before we even get into gameplay. This is just trying to say, okay, the frame rate's dropped down to 40 frames a second. Let's whoa, that was weird. Did this Okay, that just looks peculiar. All right, I think that looks very strange. I gotta look. Yeah, that is just really weird. Oh, look, anybody who picks up a game and plays it should be able to go through graphic settings and get something functional and reasonable pretty quickly. You know, this way doesn't look too bad. That way looks just plain weird. Oh, mind you, the glare effect. No, I've been in enough forests. I've been in enough forests that look very like this one. Granted, in England, not wherever this is supposed to be, and no, you'd never get something that looks quite like bad. But this is one of the shelters you can find. Yeah, it does look kind of strange. And the GPU utilization. Okay, this is low, running at 80, 90 frames a second. 120. It seems to be maxed at 120. 100. Okay. Yeah, GPU's at 85%. Not sure what difference that makes. I forget. Shadows, reflections. Oh, and now it's changed the time of day on us. Bizarrely. I think it's the same time of day. Hey, Brikash, how you doing? No, I cannot help that it's a driver issue. I think it's Proton. At a guess. Or it could be the Mesa drivers. Proton compatibility can be a game-by-game basis. I've had games which wouldn't work, then I changed the Proton version I was using, and that worked. So don't forget, this is Linux. It's not Windows. So I can only talk about the Linux experience. This looks okay, but we know if it starts raining, it'll look weird. How are you doing, Bricage? I hope your day is going well. I'm sorry this isn't Warframe, but I wanted to have a fiddle. So this is me fiddling. Yeah, in Prologue, go way back. Peaceful mode. Is that the outside toilet? It is the outside toilet. I'm... Yeah, this is where it gets slightly infuriating. Look at this. I'm on not max graphics, but a lot of it is epic settings, and 74 frames a second, 80 frames a second. You know, that's great. That's nice. Looks good. Face that way, and the frame rate drops. Why do we need the old... See, that... Look at the way that's sort of stuck on the side of the tree. I know I'm probably being needlessly pedantic. It could be, again, a driver issue. I know one thing we can try, and we will do it. Like I said, don't forget, Linux, the Steam Deck doesn't support this. Officially. That it runs at all on Linux, Mint, is quite good. But let's have a quick look at something here. What I can do is I can go to here, go to properties, and go to compatibility. Right, compatibility is set to default. So what I'm going to do is go to that. This is GE Proton 10-15. See whether this works. In Sky, Children of the Light, I did have situations where the Proton version made a difference to how well the game ran for particular features, which was kind of weird. Who suggested me this game? I simply saw a notification about it somewhere. So nobody in particular suggested it. It's just that it's a survival game. It's quite different from the usual. I think it's going to appeal. It's not going to appeal to a lot of survival gamers, but I could be wrong. It's almost a walking survival simulator, you know. It's not about the bears, the wolves, the moose. It's about, can I get from point A to point B on the map and survive the process? Can I build a fire? Can I do this? So it's not going to be even like The Long Dark. All right, let's see what this looks like. This will be a completely different seed. And as I keep saying, this is early access, so it's going to be rough. So this is a completely different map. And we have the same issue in that if I face one direction, I get one set of frame rates. If I face another direction, I get a different frame rate. Let's see. And the drivers can make a difference. I've seen driver updates to the Vulkan drivers make a difference in the look of the game. Not huge, subtle. And now the frame rate cap seems to be working, which is interesting. And I'm still not running at 100% on the GPU. So I've still got 10% of the GPU left over. I should run a bit better. But let's have a look at the old man's beard, seeing as it seems to be becoming my default test. That look different to you now? I think it does. You've got to bear in mind, part of this is the fun of trying stuff. Oh, got birdsong. And don't forget, it's the weekend. I am free. I feel free at the weekend to do more or less whatever I like. Yep. And now the frame rate's dropping. Now the interesting thing is, let's actually do a little test. When I was playing the demo version, by the way, did, as I recall, have better frame rates. I wasn't complaining so much about it then. Alright, so yeah, now the frame rate limiter is in place. Okay, no, it's not. The original demo had some very weird behavior in that things would just get slower and slower, as I recall, as time went on. I'd have to go back and rewatch the hour and 15 minutes of my original That's running, by the way. It looks better now in this weather, has to be said. So this is just hiking mode, and looking around type stuff, and seeing as if I can get it playable. Let's try what we did last time. Let's set the preset down to low. And suddenly we've got, this is low settings. It shouldn't look like this. It's far too bright. Oh, if you don't keep your brain active. Yeah. I am seriously going to look forward to see what happens when they do updates. Let's try medium. You see, that's okay all of a sudden. All right. Now, that's either a serious bug between... You shouldn't see this difference here. Between... This is medium settings. You should not see the difference between medium and low settings. I don't know whether that's a problem with the game or the problem with the drivers I'm using. But this is medium settings, and it hasn't made any difference to GPU utilization. It's running slower, but the GPU is still running 85% of the GPU, which is really weird. We are walking through mud. I think this is actually supposed to be based on places in Eastern Europe, but I could be wrong. I mean, but I've certainly seen forests that look very much like this. I mean, this looks almost like a beech forest. But the compatibility there doesn't seem to make a huge difference. You know what? Let's try something here. There is you'd be surprised sometimes the compatibility there. Here we go. This is an older one, 8.0-5. When I did a first impressions, I think it was of Green Hell, I had to basically debug the experience on the fly because I had keyboard problems, if you can believe that. And why is everything going weird on me? I don't know. I had some very weird behavior then with the frame rate that it was running at, just absolutely tanked on OBS. That's unusual. It's not the CPU. I'm not using the CPU. Yeah, I am. It was very odd. In Green Hell, I had problems with the keyboard, and I ended up resolving them by switching to an earlier version of Proton, and then it worked. Okay, Oh, that did not look good. All right. All right, so we are on medium, we're inside, and we're already facing the troublesome direction, and whoa! Rain looks better. All right, is it me or does that rain look a little better? I'm completely surrounded by water. I think the rain looks a little better. Let's have a little look and see what it looks like when I set it to epic. Yeah, the rain is definitely hitting the... Okay, yeah, this is... Yeah, that does look a bit better, I think. So, some fiddling with the compatibility layers may be necessary. I'll bet somebody out there's running this on Linux and got a recommendation. Yeah, the water effects, the rain effects, they're really hammering me. What an odd sight. Yeah, GPU is still maxed. And yeah, we're getting somewhat better frame rates. That doesn't look too bad for medium, it has to be said. Yeah, that does look better. We're actually seeing raindrops hit the planking. I wonder if I can go swimming. Oh, that's hilarious. It's very funny that you can end up surrounded by... This kind of made my day. So it is going to be, yeah, I'm definitely, that does look a lot better, I think. Although, a bit weird close up, but... This is the nature of Linux gaming. You, a lot of the time you're all right, you don't have to worry about it, but then sometimes you have to do some fiddling. Like I say, with Green Hell, I had to experiment with a different version of Proton to fix the keyboard problem. I've got a video about it, by the way. With Sky Children of the Light, although I never did a video about it or anything, I had some very odd stuff there where and this is very peculiar. Oh, you know what? Yeah, this is hammering my GPU so hard. I'm getting variable frame rates from the streaming. Oh, okay. Yeah, I should have thought this might happen. You can't tell here, but because the GPU is maxed out, encoding is having a problem. So it looks okay from my end, but this is one of the very rare occasions where I would probably have been better advised to use software encoding for this stream rather than hardware encoding. That might affect performance a little tiny bit. The only way I would have of testing it, I don't think I can. Oh, I wonder. I don't think I can change encoding settings in the middle of a stream. No, I can't. Oh, wait a minute. No, I can't. No. Yeah, no, I don't think I can change that. No, wouldn't be a great idea. Well, this is definitely something I am going to keep an eye on. Actually, I just realized one thing I can do, which might make things a lot better. This is an interesting one. You can drop the frame rate limit down to 30 frames a second, which is very low. And that fixed the encoding problem. And yep, the GPU's a lot happier, and I'm stuck at 30 frames a second, which if nothing else would be consistent. Yep, that fixed the encoding problem fixed. Running at only 30 frames a second. It's kind of soothing. It still looks a little weird to me, but it is very early days for this game in terms of Linux compatibility. It's entirely possible that things will get resolved. We will simply have to see. Wonder how high I can get the settings up before the... Whoops. Before the frame rate starts to have obvious problems. No. Oh, yeah, okay, so I can't run it high. It really doesn't like that. Even with frame rate generation, it does not like that one little bit. Yes, I know. The interesting thing is no tearing on the screen, which is nice. Sometimes low frame rate games cause tearing, a sort of tearing appearance. And there's the sun peeking through. Oh, look, you can see. Oh no, is the water going away? They've got water transparency. Look at that. Yeah. We're surrounded by mud. Yeah, you can see the draw distance has now dropped down dramatically. Well, for me at least, this was kind of fun. I'm almost willing to bet Windows doesn't have these problems. And this is a Linux. What we're seeing is more Linux related than anything else. Nah. Yeah, I don't know how you would survive this. You'd have to wait until the water level drops? Or try and slosh your way through? Because you're going to be making very, very slow progress. The sad thing is, I'll probably never have this experience in the game again. Because, yeah, it's a seed generation system, so like Minecraft, there are probably trillions of seeds. How far does this go? Oh, interestingly, it won't let me crouch. Here we are, hiking through a waterlogged forest. Right, I'm actually going to take... Yes. Not exactly a situation that I expected today. Right, I'm actually going to take a quick break and go to the toilet. I will be back in a couple of minutes. Um, no, we're not going to solve it now. This is just me taking a look, seeing what it's like, really, to be honest with you. Um, there's a lot of game mechanics and progression. I mean, during the winter ones, I know, for example, you have to board up the house, light a fire, figure out how to get all that done, figure out where you're going. What do you think, Prakash? Do you think? I can't help but think the Warframe game engine could do this. I don't know that the area we're seeing is the same sort of size as the plains of Eidolon. What are you talking about? Oh, you're not trying to come up with that old COVID was designed in a lab thing, are you? No, COVID was natural. There's I'm not an expert, I will grant you, but um, from what I understand, the scientific consensus is that COVID was not designed in a lab. It was a natural thing. One thing you've got to bear in mind too is as humans reach further and further into previously unoccupied areas, we do uncover new viruses, new diseases, or resurgence of old ones. You've got to bear in mind, here's something for you to bear in mind. The Black Death, the bubonic plague, is still around. It's endemic in parts of the United States and parts of Southeast Asia. The good thing about the Black Death is that it is easily treatable by modern antibiotics, but so we're not likely to get another recurrence of Black Death, but yeah, COVID was one of those things that made the hop over from animals to humans, and that does happen. That's what happened with AIDS. It was endemic in the I'm not sure if it was the chimpanzee population, but it hopped over to humans. There have always been plagues and epidemics. What we experience now is nothing compared with the way it used to be. Nice sky effects. Is that snow on the hills over there? The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. They're also a bit soggy. See if we can get to that tower, watchtower over there. Yeah, that I think is. Let's not start getting into conspiracy theories rubbish. What was it I said last time? If someone's got a conspiracy theory, show me the evidence. Not an idle speculation. If this was the long dark, I would be in the process of having a slow, ongoing heart attack right now. I keep wondering if I'm going to fall into a pothole. I wonder what this area looks like when it's not flooded. I'm going to have to look up and see what the Linux community is saying about Unreal games based on Unreal 5 engine. Can we climb the ladder? Ah. Can. Cooking pot. A book. A coaster. I think the world is as exciting. You know, the world is exciting. The universe is exciting. We don't need magic and Dracula and the supernatural to make it interesting. And you can find meaning easily enough. It's just up to you. It's going to be interesting to see what it looks like come daylight. Oh, I think is it trying to rain again and the sky is clear? Okay, that's a slightly bizarre effect I'm seeing there. We're going to have a thunderstorm. Yeah, give me a second. Let me have a quick look at something. See whether the Linux community has had anything to say about yeah. Okay, so here is one summary. Players on Linux have reported issues with running the game on their systems, indicating that it is not compatible with Linux. Okay. The Steam community, what are they saying about Linux? This was back in June, talking about the demo. That's not really applicable. The demo was quite different. There doesn't seem to be a huge amount. Okay, this was back in June. Don't even try to make this run on Linux, says somebody. Okay, this is interesting. This is the demo. This gentleman, this person is saying, I was interested in the game, so I tried to get it to run on my Linux PC. Yes, it's Windows only, but a lot of games are and run just fine with Proton. Couldn't get this to run at all using Proton. Neither experimental nor the last stable version showed anything. Couldn't get it running on the demo, and they were running... Let's see. Yeah, and someone else is then saying it's running for me using Proton 9 and experimental. So, yeah. I'm not sure that really looks like rain, even though I know it's supposed to. So, based on what I'm seeing so far... oh, hang on, let's see. No, this is not helpful. So there's a limited amount of information about running under Linux, and there is a very little information about Linux. It's going to be interesting. Oh, sorry. I think what we're going to see as time goes on, we'll get more information. Obviously, I'm running it just fine, with possible graphical glitches and issues, but yeah, I'm definitely suspect that there's some issues with I think I found a coat. I don't know how to check my inventory. Oh, yes. One of the things I do know about things like the backpack, you have to arrange everything very carefully in that. And I think I just picked up a jacket. Sorry, what are you saying? I'm not really sure what you're talking about, Riss, I'm afraid. I wonder if I can jump off. Yes, I can. Well, it sounds like rain. Nice lightning effects. Something to bear in mind. I know we these days are quite used to running at 60 frames a second, and that's sort of the absolute minimum. Don't forget, as recently as the PS3 and I think the Nintendo Switch, 30 frames a second was pretty much the standard for a very long time, and nobody seemed to mind. I don't mind 30 frames a second per se, as long as it's consistent and smooth. Faster would always be nicer, of course. It's not going to give me warnings about drinking this water. That's a good way to get dysentery, by the way. Yeah, the rain's looking better than it did, I think. Well, like I say, this is peaceful hiking mode. Didn't want to do that. What's that? A fuse. What do I want with a fuse? And a light bulb. You know, it's kind of fun for just wandering around, taking in the sights. Oh my goodness, I just realized I have 290 subscribers. It's just clicked over there, I didn't notice. Thank you to whoever subscribed. And I see Bracage is signed in multiple times on Twitch. Welcome to Prologue Go Wayback, the ultimate walking simulator. I wonder what this looks like without the water. Muddy, I suppose, but I was wondering if this is an open meadow or what. Hello, what's that over there? Oh, that's interesting. The field of view works the same as in The Long Dark. I can see whatever that is more clearly than if I look directly at it. The one thing I do know about this is you're very, very limited as to what you can carry. So you do have to get only what you absolutely... Yep, 10 more to go. I should make 300 by Christmas, no problem at all, at this rate. I mean, it's more than a month to Christmas. I could conceivably make 320, conceivably, by Christmas. Certainly 310 is well within... hang on. Yeah, 28 in a month is, I think, about normal, so yeah, 310 should be possible. I'd be happy with 300. Ah, clothes. Oops. A school backpack. Why did someone leave backpacks here? And candles? And sticks? Okay, it has to be said, their distribution of items is weird. Why? What is this that I'm standing in right now? And why are there 3 school backpacks in a chest? That is a little on the odd side. And why do we have a Sony Walkman? One thing I have learned today is, yeah, if I'm streaming a game which naturally wants to use 100% of the GPU, drop it down until it's not using 100% of the GPU. Because that does cause issues. I don't want to go to software encoding for something like this, because that would kick my CPU temperatures up to ridiculous heights. Or I could drop the streaming speed down to 30 frames a second. But can I reach whatever structure that is in the distance before I get too bored, or unexpected sharks in the water come after me? Yeah, I think it's too shallow for sharks. Now, I can't remember how far you actually have to travel to go clear across the map. The map is said to be large, but I think it's something like 8 kilometers by 8 kilometers, but I could be wrong about that. Doesn't sound very far, does it? But I have limited experience walking across country in the Highlands of Scotland. And I was used to being able to walk 4 miles an hour. And I knew it was 4 miles an hour because I could time myself between two places of unknown distance, and I could do 4 miles an hour. Moment you go off the road, even if it's on a track across the moorland, your speed drops to about 2, and that's if you're trying. So if you're going over rough terrain and you're not well trained and you don't know roughly where you're going, yeah, you do not go hugely fast. Certainly not if you're ankle deep in water. Yeah, I still remember that I learned that lesson the hard way. Where was I staying? I was staying at a field station in between Pitlochry and Blairgowrie. There's one road that runs across the two, and I wanted to go up to Braemar for no particular reason, and I thought, well, it's going to be quicker. There was this trail I could see on the map that went literally cut straight across this big curve in the road. I thought it would be quicker to go that way, and then I can walk back. It's only, X number of miles. It'll take me an hour to get there. No, it didn't. It took me double that. In the end, I got to the other side of this particular area and hitchhiked back because I was not doing that walk across the moors and the mountains again. It was a case of I had an afternoon to make the trip. Yeah. Well, at least I know we can get a steady 30 frames a second. It does look like beech forest. This could almost be someone's farm or something. Riss, did you just lean on the M button? It just came up for review. Of course there's meaning in a storm. It rained. Part of the water cycle. Things got wet. What is my mission? What in? Life? In this game? I'm just fiddling around in the game. I don't know what you clicked, but you have a message here which consists of an H and a multitude of M's, and it came up for review. I think what I'm going to do is make it to this barn because I'm curious. And I think that's probably going to be the end of this. I honestly was not expecting to spend so long on this. I thought I'd have a look, say, yeah, this is improved or this is better, but no, ended up fiddling around a lot more than I expected. Well, apparently YouTube can tell when you're bored, Russ. I'm not even going to be able to see what's in the barn when I get there. One thing I should actually, while I'm here, is take a quick look, see what their development plan is. Welcome to the flooded barn. They really need a way to let you enter a seed number. So let me have a quick look here. There is something I am curious about, and that is, where are we? Do we have a development log, early access roadmap? Okay. Oh wow, what is it they got? This is the... Yeah, this is patch notes post. Oh, this is patch notes. Fixed common crash after loading a save game. Game now saves when using Alt F4 to quit. No saving upon death or escape. Updated game mode selection screen. What's new in early access? Custom game settings. What's that? I haven't seen that. Apparently there's custom game settings. Map editor? I haven't seen that. Okay, what are they planning to add? More depth to gameplay, climbing, improved cooking and foraging, new tools, more environmental variety, more creative tools. Well, I think this is going to be interesting to watch as development continues. I will probably return to it at some point, I think. I hope they get the game engine working a little bit more optimized than this. That would be nice. Still think it's kind of weird that I can, go to Epic and it's just a bit strange about whether or not you're going to get a decent frame rate or not. Oh, we can get 30 frames. They can't tell much of a difference at night. Well, don't forget, this was just peaceful mode. This is just wandering around. The whole point is literally to travel from point A to point B and see if you can survive it. It's, if you want the long dark, play the long dark. I think is going to be. This is orienteering. Here's a place on the map. Can you survive to get there? That's it, pretty much. Maybe they'll add stuff to it. I think it's going to end up a very niche game. I mean, I hope it's successful. I hope it gets working. I hope it's certified for the Steam Deck. That would be very nice. Because if it is, then it probably means I'm going to be able to run it, hopefully without some of the graphic stuff I've seen. Some of the frame rate issues may be due to the compatibility layer. Maybe. I hope. I'm certainly going to keep an eye on it. But I am now going to leave you all to your weekend. What's left of it. Hope it all goes well. I will most likely be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, or 1900 hours for those who prefer that notation. As you have gathered, it may or may not necessarily be Warframe. I may do something else completely different. Normal schedule, of course, will resume on Monday. I suspect it's going to get. One thing I would like to see is more evidence of wildlife. Right now, the forest does feel empty. You're right. Yes, there's birdsong, but while I don't expect to see a plethora of animals, normally if you're walking through a forest, you will at least see birds, which we don't see. So I'd like to see that added. I'd like to see them optimize the graphics better. I think it could do better. But, who knows? Maybe I just don't have a very powerful computer. But anyway, thank you all very much for joining me on this little ramble. It made a change for me. It was kind of interesting for me, at least. I hope it was for everybody else. Thank you to whoever it was that subscribed. I do appreciate that. I hope you all. Oh, sorry. I've already said that. Hope everything continues to go well. I will see you all next time. Have a great weekend.